Good evening and welcome to BlackDoctor.org's Minority Health Summit. It continues. We've been going since 4 o'clock, but I am your host, Shamika Rhymes. Let us know in the chat where you are watching from. You know, I love to see when our community shows up and shows out. And this panel, we're about to show out a little bit. So right now we're turning our focus onto something that's really important, but it's often overlooked. Love, connection, and wellness after 50. So whether you're navigating a long-term partnership, you're just jumping back into dating again, or you're just prioritizing yourself and just, taking it easy, this conversation is for you. So we're talking about what healthy relationships and connection looks like in this stage of life and how to keep intimacy strong and why self-care and communication are often more important with time. So I'm going to introduce you to our dynamic panel of experts. First, we've got Dr. Adolph Doc Brown III. He's a clinical psychologist and master teacher. Welcome, Doc Brown.
Thank you. I'm excited.
I'm excited too. And we've got Tawanda Wilson. She is the founder of Real Wellness, and she's a holistic health practitioner. Welcome, Tawanda.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
There you go. And we've got Kendra Glasgow. She's a certified sex therapy informed relationship coach. Welcome, Kendra.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us. And y'all have seen this couple on social media everywhere. You've seen them on Tamron Hall. You've seen them on TikTok, Instagram, everywhere. Rita and Theodore Smith, they are joining us as well. They are a real life married couple, and they're going to share their lived experience. Welcome, you two.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. So we've got a lot to explore tonight, from shifting roles, dating over 50, supporting your partner's mental health, to redefining intimacy and aging with grace. So everybody in the chat, make sure that you share this live stream with someone who needs to hear it. And of course, as always, drop your questions in the chat, because we want this to be a conversation that you feel seen and included in, right? So we're going to kick this off. Doc Brown, I'm coming to you.
Come on.
What does a healthy relationship look like after 50, and how does that differ from earlier stages in life?
Well, one of the things that we have to be, I'm over 50. One of the things that we have to be aware of is how we decide to spend the final chapter. And I'm not saying that after 50, it's over, but we have compartmentalized chapters in our life. And that's so important, Shamika, because between 1990 and 2019, the Great Divorce has quadrupled. Great Divorce, where couples are divorcing more now over 50. There was a time we called it the 7-year itch, but now there's couples that have been married 20, 30 plus years, and they're divorcing. And what we're finding is that they haven't communicated about the final chapter. Now, we throw that term communication around quite a bit in marriages, and I want to kind of let everyone know it's not necessarily communication as much as it is comprehension. We can talk all day long, but if we're not understanding each other, we're going nowhere.
That's good. That's good.
I love that.
Kendra, why is it important to have these open conversations about relationships, intimacy, and aging, especially in communities of color?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think in general, our society doesn't do a good job with preparing us for relationship skills, but amongst communities of color, we have that extra pressure for legacy and making sure the lives of our children are easier and better. And I think in that grain of thought, a lot of times, your education, your career gets prioritized over things like relationship and intimacy, and that kind of leads us like further behind. And I call marriage and long-term relationships kind of like on-the-job training, because we're kind of just figuring things out on the fly.
Yeah. I wanted to address a comment I see. Vanessa, this you can watch this live. She says maybe she shouldn't be on the live because she's single but divorced. No, this is for you. If you're over 50 or if you're inching up close to 50, this is for you. So please stay and watch. I just wanted to pause to say that because I didn't want her to walk away thinking this conversation would not apply. Thank you though, Kendra and Doc, for those explanations. Doc, how can couples improve communication? But how can couples improve the communication as they age, especially? And we all have our long-standing habits that are deep, or they've got those roles, the traditional roles maybe, or whatever roles they've planted in their relationships, and it's deeply rooted. So how do you improve your communication then?
Well, what happens is we think that marriage helps us find out about our spouse. Marriage actually turns the mirror on you. and when it turns the mirror on you, it brings out your hurts, your triggers, your fears, your wounds, your traumas. It brings out all of that. So not only do you have to be willing to stretch, you also have to be willing to grow. I often say to couples, marriage may be made in heaven, but the work takes place here on earth. So, and that's what it takes. It takes boundaries that, hey, we're going to have these certain things in place when we argue, not if we argue, when we argue. That's the reality. When we argue, we won't call names. We won't become silent. If we can't get it done right then, we're going to come back to it and resolve it. These are things that are critical in marriage, but especially in the later years. And I say that because you would think you become more seasoned as we get older. And that's true. But our tolerance becomes much less. And also, we forget, but Rita and Theodore, don't forget this. Have fun.
Right.
Have fun. It's okay to be silly. But fun is an authentic part of learning and love. Have fun.
And can I add something to that? Because that was, he was on point with that. I also think not being on autopilot, right? Oftentimes we live our lives on autopilot and we kind of already think we know what our partner is thinking. And we're already ahead of the game as opposed to not thinking for them and allowing, being present in the moment. Oftentimes after we've been married for a long time, we forget to do that.
Oh, yes, Tawana. We got to be where, I say you have to be where your feet are. When we come home from work and we're still thinking about work in the presence of our spouse, we're not present. So we use that term present and purposeful and intentional, but present, how often are we with devices and other things? So that's really, really important to be where your feet are.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on you mentioned how or maybe I mentioned it, how people get stuck in their habits or in the tolerance changes. And I think about some of my friends that are over 50 and they're like, I want to get married, but he can't live in my house because I'm not wanting him to do this, and this. Like he can live across the street, So that tolerance is gone.
Right. And just something as simple as understanding, we don't marry ourselves. Really, we don't marry ourselves. So when we look at someone and we're thinking, I wouldn't do it that way. Why is this person doing that? What? So we don't marry ourselves. And if we keep that on the forefront of our brains, it would make understanding. Remember that comprehension. Communication is great, but understanding. When you have a partner that gets you, that ranks right up there next to oxygen.
Right. Rita and Theodore, you two, I love you two. You have such beautiful energy together. Y'all do have fun. I heard it when I was watching a podcast. And it's clear that this isn't just love, it's a partnership. So can you just give us a little background on how your journey started and what maybe one thing that has helped you sustain this partnership over the years?
Our journey got started in our neighborhood when we first met. That's how our journey got started. And when we got married, this was really help us to sustain our relationship. Is our relationship with the Lord that for us? Because I came out of a trauma, right? And it was bad. So when we got together, both of us, and became Christians, and learned the Bible, especially me, because I needed a lot of help. And he worked so diligently, and he was so consistent and so loving and so kind with me through all the trauma that I was going through. And it just really helped to sustain our relationship, because it could have been like this. It really could have been split.
Mhm.
But he never let me give up. He never let me give up. And he always prayed for me, because he knew, because I communicated that with him. And it's like the experts say, when I communicated with him what I was going through, he was listening.
Yes.
And that made a
Ooh,
difference.
that's
And this is what has sustained us over the years, our praying together, hand in hand, holding hands on our knees. Until this day, we still hold hands and we pray in our bed together. This has sustained us, all the spicy and the spontaneous things. Let me tell you that he does, because I don't plan trips and all that. I don't do none of that. He calls me and he tells me, what you doing? He'll say, what you doing? And things like this. I'm coming pick you up. I'm like, what? So I have my bag packed and I'm ready to go. But what I love about our relationship, I love the consistency.
Yes.
Mhm.
I love
Mhm.
that he loved me in spite of the mess that I can be and was. He never downed my situation when I told him what I was going through and what I had been through and childhood trauma. He just always not pitied me, but loved me through it. And let me just say this: when you get with a partner that loves you more than the person that abused you, which is your mom, that's just so overwhelming to me. So overwhelming to me, because it's a difference, because this is my mom and this is my mate. But
Mhm.
just to have that love, see, I had the love from my daddy, but I didn't have it from my mother. So that made me hard, and that made me act up sometimes. And when I would act up, he would just stay calm, and he's still patient, very patient. And we would just pray about it. And that's it, just sustained us. It has sustained us.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, I'm hearing some extra noise. I don't know if you guys are. So if you can maybe mute when you're not speaking, or ask if anybody's in your background to just bring it down just a little. I hear a lot. It was a lot of interference earlier. But I do see in the comments that someone said, when I saw Rita and Theodore, it was love at first sight.
Amen.
I love that.
Absolutely.
So how do you two navigate these sensitive topics like health issues, retirement, or finances? And I'm assuming there's not a lot of conflict, but I don't know.
He's
How do
very
you
helpful.
handle that, Rita?
Well, matter of fact, once a year I go to the doctor, because I realize that I'm not just like the doctor said, you're not marrying yourself.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And once a year I will get my annual checkup, because I got to think about my wife, you know. Now I'm scared to go to the doctor, but I do go. I go once a year. I just went to the doctor. I went 2 weeks ago and got my blood work, and then I went back to get my results. And this year, my cholesterol was a little high. So even with that, knowing that, I know what I got to do now to bring my cholesterol back down. And even with retirement, you know, I always put aside money for retirement.
Hmm.
When I get old, I got money put away for my retirement.
He got it on fleek, y'all. Y'all, let me just say this. This man is well put, and fix me well put. And I'm bragging now. I'm being grateful, y'all. I'm just saying. He is so well put with it all. He jukes, a lot. He don't eat packaged foods like talking about. He don't eat meat. So we do the healthy thing. Now I can't have the fruits and vegetables unless I want the ambulance to come. So that's out for me. But the finances, I'm not good at that. I am not good at that, but he's great at it. I'm still learning, y'all.
Mhm. And that's what life is, learning. You're always learning. So I love that. And I want to talk to the experts about this too, about how you are supposed to navigate these sensitive topics like health, retirement, or finances without conflict. Because even, for those singles that are over 50 that are dating, I'm sure that retirement conversation, and I watch dating shows where they're saying, these women or men that are about to retire, they want someone that has some money saved, or they want someone that it can still has some get up and go and can get out and do whatever. So I'm gonna start with you, Kendra. How do you suggest that folks navigate those sensitive topics?
I'm going to say, make sure you don't think that, oh, it's going to happen when it happens. Like, you have to be intentional about having those discussions.
Mhm.
I really like, and it might seem weird to do if it's a brand new relationship, but I really think relationship check-ins are a great space to talk about things that don't normally come up, like finances, like planning for the future. And that way you can also both be prepared. I know a lot of times, so I've been divorced, and I know a lot of times I would come to my ex-husband, I would have this laundry list of concerns, and I would not be concerned about like what he has going on. So like making sure that schedule, make it an intentional conversation, because these aren't fun topics, but they're important.
Yeah.
And some
Yeah.
people find them fun.
Tawanda, how about you? What do you think? What is your suggestion on how to navigate these sensitive topics? Oh, you're on mute.
I'm
There
sorry.
you go.
I'm trying to make sure that I'm not talking while you guys are talking, because
You're good.
Okay. So forgive me. I'm gonna say making sure that you come to having those conversations are really good when there's no bickering or issues or anything going on, right? So oftentimes we try to have conversations when we're already arguing or we have something going on. So really doing what Kendra said, finding a time to be intentional around it and really sit down and discuss it. But I think having them up front a lot of times is really good. Oftentimes we wait when we're in relationships or we're starting to date, and we wait because we're not sure if this person is the one. We have to have tough conversations up front, because because we have to vet one, right? And you may be spending time with someone that you don't necessarily have. You guys don't have the same values, right? You don't have you don't need to have the exact same values, but they should be in your top 10. They don't have to be in the same order, but you guys should be on the same page. And oftentimes it's not. And we wait until after we've invested time, and it's a little too late. And now you find out that you guys are not on the same page. So I would say, make sure you do it up front, and then also find a neutral spot and place and time where there's no craziness going on.
Okay. Doc, I know you got something around that communication aspect too.
Sure. So when you're discussing finances, it's really important to know that you have financial ghosts that lurk in the relationship. And when I say financial ghosts, if I come in a relationship and I grew up inner city poverty, so I want to save every penny. I don't want to necessarily splurge when tomorrow's coming. But if somebody else comes in the relationship and they have had abundance, they haven't had to worry about things. So you have to know about those ghosts. Some say ghosts. Some also say your financial baggage. So, and everyone has mentioned struggling or conflict. I want everyone to understand, don't run from it. We become a society now whereby conflict means shut down. You shouldn't have it. I don't know if there's anything you can do without a struggle. Anything worthwhile anyway. So don't run from it. And I will say with Rita and Theodore, listening to you here, listening to you on the other social media platforms, I've heard you guys understand each other's love language. Knowing someone's love language is a huge part of relationship success. And when we talk about love languages, folks, we're talking about whether or not someone wants your time, whether or not they want acts of service, whether or not they want gifts, whether that they want touch or positive words. So those are the love languages that we have. And when you know your partner's love language, you can just about present anything with the possibility of less conflict.
I love that. Yes. And one of the things that stood out to me that with Rita and Theodore was Rita said he listened. That key is I thought that was huge. Shout out to you, Theodore, for that, for listening.
Definitely.
So, Doc Brown, what advice do you have for these singles out here who are wanting to get started, or they're just starting to get out there and date in their 50s or 60s? Because that can be scary, and not everybody wants to hop on a dating app.
Definitely. I would tell them to take their time to, as Tawanda said, to make sure that you're vetting or asking the tough questions up front. Asking, what's your faith? Do you have a faith? That's the center. When any of the young men have come to me to ask for the hand of my daughters, I would tell them my expectation as a dad is I only want you to love God more than my daughters. So you want to make sure that faith, you want to make sure that values, the mores, attitude, and personality, all of those things. And those things aren't assessed through apps. People are given, really, I mean, it's social media, the comparison culture. We want to present our best self. Those things are assessed with energy, sitting in front of a person, looking them eye to eye, listening to see if they're listening, to see if their behavior is consistent with what they're saying and what they've done in the past. So all of those things, as opposed to rushing in.
Mm-hmm. Tawanda, how does our physical health impact our relationships as we age, and vice versa?
Greatly. I think that we don't realize that even in being in a relationship, it can be stressful, and stress actually is huge, for our health, and also in the relationship. Excuse me. Hold on. It's huge for our health, like our health and relationships with stress is just. Mm-hmm. I don't think we understand how major stress is, right? And so when you're in a relationship and those cortisol levels are creeping up because we are in an argument, and we also have work, and we also have all these other things, and then we go to bed at night and we're not getting restful sleep because we're angry with our partners, it can create a huge issue. One, it creates that weight around the midsection for us, which is not very good. And it can lead us into those chronic lifestyle diseases like high blood pressure and diabetes and cancers and all those things. So we have to be mindful of how we're having relationships, and make sure that we have intimate relationships and that we're touching. COVID was really tough on us, and some of us was disconnected. We were disconnected from people, and we have to make sure that we're having that intimacy. I love how the couple is just sitting close together and just really, on each other. Those are really, really important things that we have to do. And those actually lower our health issues. Like, it lowers the stress response, and all of those. Kissing your mate before you leave out, or getting kissed, release or takes away some of that cortisol, so we have to remember that it can play a huge part in our health.
Okay.
Shamika, may I add?
Absolutely.
With regards to emotional health, 90% of the negative emotions that we experience contribute to the majority of the physical ailments we have. Don't take my word for it. Johns Hopkins University just did a wonderful study, folks. They correlated the unforgiveness to cancer. Yes. That when you're holding a grudge, not forgiving someone is related to the experience of cancer. So what Tawanda was saying about what this does to the body, it's truer now than ever before.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Wow.
German New Medicine does the same thing, Doc, as far as with connecting, those type of things as well, like whether a woman gets breast cancer in the right breast or the left breast versus, so there's so many studies that have been, due to stress and relationships.
Wow. Thank you for both of you for sharing that. Kendra, did you want to jump in on that?
I don't think I have anything else to add,
Okay.
but definitely agree that stress is underestimated in terms of its impact.
Hmm. Absolutely. Because when you're in a toxic relationship, then everything starts to affect you. Your hair starts to come out. Let me not go down that bitter road right now, but y'all know what it is. I did want to bring up, since we were talking about physical health, and then like Theodore mentioned, his cholesterol earlier. Rita, I've seen you do, and you were in the comments actually one day when I was doing a show, I think about endometriosis, but you talked about having endometriosis. So I wonder, what was that like? What did that partnership, that marriage, that support look like when you were, because endometriosis is painful. What was that like for you two going through that?
For me, it was horrible. It was really horrible. But the beautiful thing was that although he didn't understand it, but he took care of me. Because I couldn't bathe myself. I couldn't do anything. We had small children, and our children were younger then. Tamika was 4 when I had my first surgery. And so I was from the sofa to the bed. It was very, oh Lord, painful, just every day. And during that time, we couldn't be intimate like we usually would be because I got married at 19. And we would be gone 7 days a week. I mean, like sexual. I mean, 7 days a week. So 23, I had my last baby, which is my daughter. And in the 20s, I started feeling run down for some reason after I really, really had her, not knowing that's what it was. So I was like, I can't really, function. I was feeling like, oh Lord, would I have lost my groove? I just all kind of stuff because at first we didn't get the diagnosis. And then when we did get it, and having the surgery and all that, it just took so much out of me to the point where he always bought me beautiful lingerie, beautiful lace, silk, and he know I love that stuff. So he had to put it on me. I would try, but he would lay it out, and it really made me feel alive. It would bounce me up. He still would like touch me in the areas, and although we couldn't do anything sexual, but it
Mhm.
still we still was intimate. We still showed a lot of love. He still showed a lot of love for me. And I mean, he just did it, and I knew he didn't understand what I was going through because I didn't understand myself because I didn't have the knowledge of it until I
Mhm.
started learning on it. But the beautiful thing is when you have someone to love you, when he said, I do to the marriage vows and I will, that's him. That's him. He took, y'all, I cried when I talk about this because
Aw. Aw. Well, I love that. I love hearing that. And you guys have been married 44 years, is that right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
I get a little
yeah.
emotional when I talk about it because it's so
Yeah.
wonderful to have someone that loves you back. And so as I was laying in a bed, I said, one day I want to sell lingerie because of what I went through and feeling like I really was almost unalive, to be honest with you all. And I still wanted that lingerie though. So I said, I want to sell lingerie to women that have chronic pain, because that's what I was having, chronic illness. And that's
Mhm.
that's what really made me popped up because all of the lingerie, he would buy me the silk robes, the silk slip gowns and the silk panties with the lace. So that's my if I never sell lingerie the rest of my life, I'm good. I'm good
Oh,
with that.
yeah.
I just wanted to do it to make women feel alive when you feel almost unalive.
Hmm. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Kendra, what are some ways that, we just heard how Theodore supported Rita going through a physical issue, but what are some ways that individuals can support their partner's mental health without overstepping or, taking on that where they end up emotionally drained?
That's a great question. I would say, and I know we've been talking a lot about listening, but being a really good listener and meeting your partner where they're at. So it makes me think about like the stages of change. Maybe, your partner is, maybe I have an issue, but I don't think I actually need help. So maybe offer a resource rather than trying to like go straight to, forcing them to go to therapy. So I would say just meeting them with where they are, because, you're going to be responsible for your mental health, and ultimately they're responsible for their mental health. You can let them know, how their mental health is impacting you, but at the end of the day, meeting them where they are is going to be important.
Well, Tawanda, on the heels of that, how can people prioritize their own self-care while still trying to nurture being in a relationship or dating, or if they have a roster, dating several people? I don't know if people over 50 have rosters, but on TV they do.
On TV they do. Yeah, creating space for themselves and time. And I think that it has to be done. Like, you have to take care of yourself. You have to fall in love with the process of taking care of yourself, and not just our partners. And as we get older, we tend to do that. We tend to only cook if the partner is there, and not cook for ourselves or cook really good meals for ourselves, right? Or take ourselves out and all of this stuff. So we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves in that way, so that because it allows us to give more to the relationship. The better you take care of yourself, the better you're able to take care of somebody else. So you have to, I say it all the time, it's probably one of my business mottos. You have to fall in love with the process of taking care of yourself. You have to, and oftentimes we don't know how. So it would be something like scheduling time for yourself, right? Make sure you're scheduling some time, setting up those boundaries. If you need that morning time after you do your meditation or prayer together, then having some time specifically for yourself, checking in with yourself throughout the day, because we do it for our partners. We'll check in. Hey, how are you doing? How's your day going? But we never check in with ourselves. We never have those moments to ourselves. So I would say start with just setting up some boundaries and some time for yourself, and then, it'll pour over into the relationship. You have to make sure your cup is full. So give from a cup that's overflowing.
Oh, yes. I love that. Doc, why is social connection outside of romantic relationships so important after 50, and how can people maintain it?
Well, social connection is another thing that's been correlated to the experience of depression, or lack thereof. And we saw that from the pandemic, from the isolation. And connection is even more important after 50, because oftentimes we lose it. We start doing things and getting in our comfort zones and doing things that may not necessarily include our partner or our spouse. So that social connection is important. But what's also important, we're able to socialize and connect with other people better when we've connected with ourselves. So the question that I constantly ask folks, and Shamika, I asked you this, if I asked you to write a list of all that you love, how long would it take you to add your name to that list? So if you didn't think about yourself when I just asked that question, that's an issue. Your name has to be at the top of the list. Tawanda said you can't pour from an empty cup. So we talk about connection, and we sometimes put the cart before the horse. Yeah. We talk about connection and what I'm going to do with someone else when we haven't done it for ourselves. And Kendra, you said that you got to take care of yourself. You got to meet people where they are. And if we don't meet someone where they are, then are we really meeting?
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. So going back to something that Rita brought up earlier, the intimacy. Let's talk about intimacy, because we got to get this topic in before we wrap up. But Kendra, this is your area. What are some myths around sex and intimacy in older age that we need to debunk in our community?
Well, first, and I think the Smiths have done a great job with illustrating the reason why a lot of these are myths is that sex and intimacy is less important as we get older. Um, that's constantly being, refuted in my Facebook group where, most people are 50 and up. And I think that one of the biggest complaints is, the lack of it and wanting it more. And I also think a myth is that intimacy is just sex. It is so much more than that. It's affection, it's emotional intimacy, it's spiritual intimacy, it's shared habits. And then another myth is that, sex is just penetration. As we discuss sexuality a lot more, we're able to be a lot more creative and do a lot more things as throughout the lifespan, which is, I think, really exciting.
Yeah, I have to come back to Rita and Theodore, because I gotta know how you keep it spicy after 44 years. How do you keep it spicy in your relationship? And can you give those watching some tips? I know you have some.
Look, I'm laughing because, like, when he come home from work, okay, and I know he been, he out there working, I would just go and put on something so cute, just cute. So, I like robes, and because that's what he started me off with and stuff. I like the silk robe where they don't have no buttons on them. I don't want the buttons. I want the one that's opened up. So when he come home, he can see my breasts. As soon as he come through the door, he can see that. That's a good way of keeping it spicy. And I just like to look cute all the time. All the time. And it keeps the spice. You know what else keeps the spice for him too? Now, he crazy about me, but I had to learn the spice for him. He loved BET, right? Because he loved fashion. My man loved to watch BET. So, because he loved fashion. So I like to put on something like a little, shimmer and just come through. And I know BET is on, but I'm on too. Look, and I like to sit on his lap with a little wiggle. I love this. It is all like my little role playing stuff. I like to come in like I'm Xena Warrior and stuff. I just love all this type stuff. And that's why he and I did an ebook, y'all.
This is hilarious.
Called Love Can't Wait. Because in our ebook, it's like we have these things in there. I'm sorry. We talk about the building blocks of a relationship. We talk about the chemistry in there, because you need that chemistry. You got to have that chemistry. You can't let chemistry just fall to the ground. Because if you let that chemistry fall, that is it. People tell me in the comments, "Oh, you just thirsty." Yes, I am for him.
That's right.
Look, they say you just want attention. I get that. I'm trying to help y'all to get it. You know what I'm saying?
Teach me, Miss Rita.
I am great over here because I got this on fleek, and you know what? We over 60, so some people think a mid is like, oh, they ain't doing nothing, baby. You don't know. You do not know. I say if the chandelier could talk, the chandelier will let them know these people still rolling.
Now, is there a story behind that chandelier? Is there a story behind that chandelier?
Mm-hmm. That chandelier is popular in our bedroom because I'm 63, he's 65. But once I have on my role play stuff, I just feel like I just can be any kind of character I want. Now I hold up on that chandelier, and that man loved that. Let me tell you, when you like that, I'm like that. He can't wait to come home to me.
I love that. I love that.
Oh gosh.
Where can everybody get this book? Is it online somewhere, like Amazon? Where can we get this book?
www.bookbaby.com. y'all get the book. It's a
Okay.
small investment, but you know what? I love that we did this together. We always worked as a team. And a lot of people ask me a lot of questions, and I can't answer everything in the DM and in the comments in my lives and stuff. But when you read the book, it's intimate. It's intimate. It's really intimate.
Mhm.
Shamika, can I add on to that?
Yes, please do.
So, well, I'm going to switch it a little bit. I'm not going to talk about sex. But what I am going to talk about is the body's ability to function when we are in our 60s and 70s, if we're taking care of it the way we need to. And we have been told that age is, this once you get to this, oh, my body stops working. The body doesn't work like that. Your body wants nothing but to be in homeostasis and to function. And if you are getting up in age and you are having some issues, there are natural things that you can absolutely do to make sure that your body functions. If you have a woman that's in menopause, one, make sure that you're, doing what you need to do to balance out your hormones, and then also make sure that you're supporting your cortisol levels. Because a lot of times we think that because we're older, though, that it is menopause, and most times it's cortisol levels that are kind of giving us the night sweats and all this other stuff, or waking up in the middle of the night. So we have to make sure that we're supporting the body in the way of different things, like one, the foods, making sure that we're getting a lot of foods and that our body is hydrated. And then also for women, we have things like maca and slippery elm and all these other natural things that we can use if we're starting to have issues with menopause or having some of the dryness. Dry does not necessarily mean that nothing is going on. It may mean that now my partner has to be a little bit more intimate with me or take a little bit more time, but it can still get done, right? So I think that those are myths, that our body just doesn't function like it's supposed to as we get older. And once we get into our 60s and 70s, like that's it. Yeah, that's not it. As we see, Ms. Smith just said it.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I was going to mention the whole menopause thing. So thank you for that. And I do have one last question for you all, and this is for everybody. So we'll just kind of go around. And I'm going to start with Doc Brown. What is one thing that you wish everyone over 50 knew about love, intimacy, or partnership?
Well, I think we talked about the menopause for women.
Mm-hmm.
I want to address for men that the research says it's not if you're going to have prostate issues, it's when, if you live long enough. So I would like men to know that. I would also like men to know, kind of what Tawanda said, it's not over. My oldest daughter is an epidemiologist. And while she was studying, she called my mom, her grandma, and wanted to know, I guess a part of her research, Grandma, when did you stop having sex? And my mom said, you need to ask someone much older than me. So the point is,
I was trying not to laugh.
So another thing I want to mention for men, especially, there may be times where we're not able to get the job done. I mean, let's be real, and we can't or shouldn't be intimidated if I guess the new crave is the rose or whatever it is that can help. So it's all about perspective. It's all about being flexible and growing together, not just stretching, but growing.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Tawanda, what's one thing that you wish every person over 50 knew about everything we talked about tonight? What's one thing that you either want them to remember?
One? Like I only get one?
One, just one.
Okay,
just
that's
one.
it. All right, let's see. That it's never too late. It's never too late to decide to learn something new, to grow and evolve, to try something different. Especially if what you're doing is not working, it's never too late to really look at your values and see what you need to shift and change to have the type of relationship, and even get clear on what type of relationship it is you're looking for. Because oftentimes we don't do that. We don't know ourselves. So it's never too late to learn yourself and really fall in love with the process of taking care of yourself.
That's a good one. That's good. Kendra, how about you? What's your one thing that you want everybody to, either take away from the conversation or that you just wish everybody knew that's over 50?
Well, I think it's along the same lines of the things, but yeah, just that you can never know too much about yourself. And when you are aware of your needs, what gives you pleasure, your values, that helps your partner even more.
That's good. That's good. Rita and Theodore, how about you? I know y'all got something good and spicy for us.
Well, I think for me, like the doctor said, I think it's very important because prostate ran in my family with my daddy, his brother. So I go to the doctor. My prostate looked good. I go get the what they call that, get the camera up, your colon check. I go take care of all that. I make sure all that is taken care of because it can affect the man's, sexual
Right.
in sex. So I think it's very important that you do some things. I do healthy alternative things to try to turn that around. Maybe smoothies in the morning. I'm always taking pumpkin seeds and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Mine
That's
would
good.
be mine would be love can stand a test of time. And you can that's my first one, and you can always have a successful relationship.
Yes, I love this. This panel has been so good, and I've learned so much. We need a part 2 to this one. This has been so good. I want to thank each of you for taking the time out to come and chat about such an important topic. And yes, I'm gonna have to get y'all to all come back at some point. So thank you. Everybody, for more information about like relationships, healthy aging, you can head over to blackdoctor.org for lots of articles and resources there. But the Minority Health Summit continues. The next panel that we have coming up, and it's the last panel for the evening, is all about STD awareness. So you want to make sure to check that out because April is STD Awareness Month. So thank you guys again for joining. Thank you to the people in the chat. I saw you guys, and have a great evening. Well, I'll see y'all in the next panel. Have a great evening.
Okay.